Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's board meeting. My name is Brad Gottschall. I'm your Lower Paxton Township Manager. And in typical fashion, I'm going to give a quick summary of tonight's agenda before we begin. So beginning under old business, the board will act on a master service agreement with Civic Plus for the design and implementation of a rebranded township website and a new mass notification system. Secondly, the board will consider action on 3 separate contracts for the purchase of a piece of fire apparatus for each of the 3 fire companies of the township. Then, moving into new business, the board will take action on the payment of an invoice for repair to a piece of fire apparatus from the Linglestown Fire Company per the township's policy regarding the Fire Equipment Capital Fund. Next, the board will consider Resolution 19-11, declaring an intent to reimburse township funds through the receipt of Penvest loan proceeds in connection with sanitary sewer replacement projects. After this, the board will consider Resolutions 19-12 through 19-16, all authorizing the submission of applications for traffic signal improvements, approvals along the Linglestown Road corridor in connection with the Susquehanna Union Green development. And then finally, the board will act on improvement guarantees and the payment of township and authority bills. At this point, the members of the board are seated and prepared to begin. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gottschall. I'll call this meeting of the Lower Paxton Board of Supervisors to order. I'd like to ask everyone to please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, led this evening by Mrs. Lindsay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Let us move to the approval of minutes of the meetings of February 12, 2019 and February 19th, 2019.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the minutes of February the 12th, 2019 and February the 19th, 2019 is prepared and circulated.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Before we proceed to public comment, I would like to announce that prior to this meeting and following this meeting, the Board of Supervisors will be meeting in executive session to receive information from the Township Manager and Solicitor. With that, we will go to public comment. Public comment is for an item that is not on the agenda tonight. When we come to individual items, if you wish to address the board on that item, we will take your public comment at that time. So would anybody like to address the board on an item not on the agenda? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address, sir.
My name is Don Bickle, and my address is 5991 Timothy Road. My name is Don Bickle. My address is 5991 Timothy Road, like the little boy. There you go. Emailed what I'm about to say in a prepared speech to township supervisors earlier. I did give a printed copy because I know we all have jobs, and I speak relatively fast. So my wife said I better print it out so you guys can try and keep along a little bit better here. So here's my prepared comments, and afterwards, like I said in an email, I'm prepared to answer just about any questions the board might have if they have any. Hello, and thank you for letting me speak at this public board meeting. I have several serious concerns regarding the operation of a property at 5790 Devonshire Road, commonly called Springgate Vineyard and Brewery. My primary concerns for bringing this forward are the issues and problems I warned this board about and foresaw 5 years ago if the brewery was permitted are actually here and literally making my neighborhood unsafe at almost all times of the day. As a resident, I am baffled completely as to why the township has not stopped this from occurring to residents living in the area. Specifically, as a resident, my primary and chief concern is literally being able to drive home safely to my house, regardless of the day of the week or time of the day. I don't bring these concerns to you lightly without having trying to exhaust all their means of resolving this matter. but the owner and resident of the residential property has rebuffed all attempts by local residents surrounding him to resolve the problems in a way that makes our neighborhood safe once again. The property at 5790 Devonshire Road is in an R1 residentially zoned district, but is operating as a commercial business. Per the local zoning for farm-related business, and I quote here, farm-related business shall be defined as a customary accessory use to an on-site principal agricultural use. Farm-related businesses are intended to provide supplemental income to farmers. End quote. The key word to the above sentence is supplemental income. At this point, the winery and brewery are providing all income to the, quote, farmer creating beer and wine there. A variance request for a brewery pub was put in by the property owner, but was denied by the local township. Now, not only does that business have that liquor license, it also has a separate brewery and brewery storage license, allowing them to create and store beer on site. All of this in an area where the variance was denied. What's next? A distillery license? There's nothing farming related to regarding to the making of beer. The basic ingredients to making beer are a starch source, commonly barley, but also rice, wheat, corn, and sugar. Water and yeast are the other two basic ingredients for making beer. There are flavoring ingredients that can be added, such as hops, but beer can be made without the use of hops. The making of beer is not a farming activity. If I had a similar farm with 10 cows on it, would it be okay for me to open up a chocolate factory in a residential neighborhood? The answer is simply no. Another aspect of where the property is violating the rule is the following, quote, a farm-related business shall be conducted by a resident or owner of the property, his or her relatives, and a maximum of 4 other employees working on site at one time, in addition to the employees of the agricultural use. Last Friday, I personally went and looked at the vendors and winery beer pub employees, counting at least 12 combined staff that I saw, including vendors working the food trucks selling food there. This coming Saturday alone, they will have 6 different food vendors there selling food on the property in addition to their own staff. The third and perhaps most egregious violation of the ordinance involves building usage. The ordinance states that to, quote, the maximum extent feasible, a farm-related business should use an existing building. Buildings that existed prior to the effective date of this section may be used for a farm-related business. Any new building constructed for a farm-related business and any new parking areas for trucks shall be set back a minimum of 100 feet from any lot line of an existing dwelling, unless a larger setback is required by another section of this ordinance. The total of all building floor areas used for farm-related business shall not exceed 6,000 square feet. This 6,000 square foot limit shall only apply to buildings constructed after the effective date of this ordinance, end quote. Just one of the multiple winery buildings alone uses 3,700 square feet for a floor plan. The total square footage of all the buildings and building extensions on the property after the ordinance was created is at least 16,000 square feet. And they are currently building more buildings and expanding surface use areas. The newest extension to the brewery building should add another 600 to 800 square feet to the building structure. Building permits are not being requested or renewed for temporary structures. A 400 square foot temporary pop tent application has not been renewed and has existed there almost 3 years as a, quote, temporary structure. I was there earlier last Friday and saw a tractor trailer deliver a fully loaded trailer of wood supplies. This wood was used to erect a building extension onto one of the brewery buildings, all done without building permits to the best of my knowledge. A simple lookup of the property listed in county records only shows 6 structures present on the property, including 1 residence. These records are woefully out of date. See for yourself the time-lapse photos present in Appendix A. I have 4 photos there. One dated in 2011, before he had his winery, where you can clearly see all the buildings were there. One there, which is dated before he got his brewery license, which clearly shows the winery and some of the construction he started doing then. And then you start seeing the building accelerating clearly just 4 months later after he got his brewery and brew pub license. And now, if you look up just a year ago, you see massive amounts of parking lots and buildings that were there. Sorry for going off what I was going to say. The vast amount of another ordinance for the farm-related business being violated is due to its overall size. A farm-related business may also use buildings, I'm quoting here, a farm-related business may also use buildings of any size that existed prior to the effective date of this ordinance. The total area used by the farm-related business, including parking, shall not exceed 3 acres. The total square footage of the parking area used by the establishment currently, not including street parking, is almost 4 acres. This does not include any other structures, courtyards, brew pubs, etc., which already have a footprint just for the buildings of well over 7 acres. See handout A for the photo, as I said, of the time-lapse photos that show some of that. The vast amount of patron parking has caused huge traffic and noise problems literally now on a daily basis. 2 years ago, I began having severe difficulties driving home from practices ago on Saturday evenings, having to avoid patrons staggering across Devonshire Road in the dark. Last year, I literally almost hit 2 people on 2 different occasions driving home from practices. I contacted the previous township. Sorry, I want to make that distinction there. The previous township manager, who promptly said there was nothing that could be done about the situation. This year, the volume has gotten so bad, I'm having problems even driving home from work safely during the day. Twice this year alone, I almost hit a car making a, quote, illegal left turn out of the exit coming home on Devonshire Road. And I use the quote illegal because the signs that he has posted are not legal. If you know anything about Pennsylvania law, they have to be a minimum of 5.5 feet off the ground, and on top of that, clear and free of any obstructions, which this fails for both. To show how crazy traffic is now, last week I was at the Craig's house at 5885 Devonshire Road around 6 o'clock at night. I was there only 20 minutes and 3 vehicles pulled up his driveway, clearly marked as private property, and turned around to leave. One car even tore up his front yard, turning around right in front of us. This has caused hardship for all residents living close to this establishment, and all attempts at working out low levels to resolve this dispute have been ignored by the resident of the vineyard. Last Friday at 8 p.m., I counted almost 300 parked vehicles waiting to use a facility that has a normal operating hour past 10 p.m., which ignores local noise ordinances. Multiple noise violations have been reported by neighbors surrounding the establishment to no avail relief to those residents. By the way, those were reported to the Pennsylvania State Police. I have Officer Tuck's number if you would like to contact her. She has all the listings of all the complaints that were made to the Pennsylvania State Police. I've been in touch with them.
Can I just stop you for a second? Have they been made to our local police department?
I apologize, Ms. Lindsay. I don't have access or knowledge of what's been reported to your police department. I can only report to the Pennsylvania State Police, which is actually technically in charge of enforcing liquor operations.
Thank you.
A Women's in Technologies Awards ceremony was held at the Vineyard almost 2 weeks ago. Approximately 500 cars were parked both on the property and scattered around the neighborhood on side streets. That's more cars than could be placed in front of our local Target, Wise, Old H.H. Gregg, Bob's Discount Furniture, and Party City stores located at the Paxton Town Center combined. Yet another violation of local ordinance involving business operations. Non-agricultural operations shall not routinely occur in a manner that generates traffic or noise heard by neighbors between the hours of 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. And I listed on that the information I got from the website, what the normal operations hour. It's Appendix D in the back if you want to see it, straight pulled from the website. With the following hours of Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, noon to 10. Friday and Saturday, noon to 11 p.m., and Sunday, they only operate from noon to 9 p.m. Thankfully, they are closed normally on Mondays except for special events, and of course, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Easter, and Christmas Eve, they do close at 6 p.m., so don't go there Christmas Eve. They do host special events on Mondays as well, like the Women's in Technology Conference was actually held on Monday, although the normal vineyard operations are closed. The last significant violation involves the retail sales of items. And I'm quoting here, quote, any retail sales shall be occasional in nature and shall occur by appointment or during a maximum of 20 hours per week, except customary retail sales as part of the Barber Beauty Supply. This provision shall not restrict permitted sales of agricultural products, end quote. Folks, like I said earlier, making beer is not an agricultural product. So, if so, ABC Brewery, located in Harrisburg City, would be located on a farm. The Yingling Brewery plant, located in Pottstown, would be on a farm. The sale of beer at bars is literally a retail transaction, and as such should not occur more than 20 hours per week, and occasionally at best. Current operations of the facility has this occurring 61 hours a week. The borough manager last year told me there was nothing the township could do about this issue. According to the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, that is not the case. You can enforce your existing zoning regulations and sue to terminate the operation of the vineyard until at such time the owner comes within established confines of licensed operations within established zoning ordinances. The owner does not have the square footage to operate a brewery and vineyard with the parking required for patrons visiting his establishment. Patrons are parking along Hampshire Road, Greenfield Road, and now Devon Drive. This is crazy for local residents simply trying to avoid pedestrians on the road going home from work or while going out for groceries. The entrance and exits of the facility have caused multiple accidents over the past few years. One occurred just this week, which tore up my neighbor's Mr. White's yard. I want to repeat, this is a residential neighborhood, designated R1, which is the most protected status you can give a property in the township. The interchange was not designed to handle the patron traffic of a Target or Walmart. What are local residents supposed to do? I implore you to look at Appendix B, which has pictures of the exit of the facility, which I have there. I went and parked my car along the side of the road. That's my car. So the picture you have looking at the roadway, that's sitting from the driver's seat in my car. And I ask you, would you feel comfortable even making a right turn from that exit? Now imagine if you're a resident with an impaired or lazy driver that attempts to make a crazy left turn there. Would you want to drive home and face that scare multiple times a day? Normally, I would suggest the township reach out to the property owner to see if a solution could be made to resolve the matter. The property owner willfully went around a zoning ordinance variance request and has been building numerous buildings on the property at a furious pace with no regards to our township zoning rules, the denial variance requests in the past. The property owner is accelerating construction of brewery and winemaking operations at the local facility, requesting export licenses. He's exporting his stuff now to facilities outside of the township for additional processing purposes. I think an immediate injunction is needed to stop business operations before literally someone dies this summer, be it a resident or local visitor unaware of the dangerous traffic situation the property is generating now. That's my prepared remarks.
Any questions?
I think it's all said right here.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's very thorough. You've done an exceptional job in compiling all of this. We are going to look into these matters. There's some question as to what can and cannot be done in an agricultural area. We're not aware of any building permits having been issued over there recently for buildings. So I know our new township manager has had a discussion with our planning and zoning folks, and they're going to investigate the complaint.
Yeah, I've talked to your planning and zoning folks, Nicholas specifically, and under the previous board and the previous township, your zoning folks were completely, including his supervisor, were completely against allowing the vineyard even to come into fruition. But they decided to give him, the owner of the property, the benefit of the doubt and see how far he would go with it. So he authorized and did the vineyard operations. And then when he tried to do the brew pub operation, which required public comment back then, they changed the laws since then, which is how he was able to get around you folks, which I've already talked to Representative Lewis about. Representative Lewis would be more than happy to engage the board here. Actually, he said he'd be reaching out to you in a couple days about this. This matter, because there was a public protest by your folks when the brewery pub and brew pub license went in. But when I talked to legal, and feel free to contact the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, their legal counsel, he was very clear, Justin was very, very clear that it's very easy for you to stop this. that you have existing zoning ordinances, and any one of these, he has parking spots less than 100 feet from, within 100 feet barrier. He has buildings erected within 100 feet of the actual area, not to mention all the square footage of all the buildings. There's so many zoning variances he has completely ignored. It'd be very easy for you to put an injunction into place.
Well, it's easy for estate agencies to say it would be easy for us to do. It's another matter to actually do it, and we can't take action without having our legal counsel take the time to adequately research it, because keeping in mind that any efforts we undertake are going to be met with legal action by the property owner. So we want to make sure we're on solid ground before we do anything. Otherwise, we're not going to get anywhere. But we are, our solicitor and our zoning folks are going to look into this.
Do you know when there would be a response back? Because when this whole thing happened 5 years ago, I was the one that went toe-to-toe with the property owner. I stood here and went literally toe-to-toe with the guy. I don't know if any of you guys were on the board back then, but that's what happened. And at the end of the meeting, he said he was withdrawing his request for the brewery permit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's literally what happened, because I brought up the point that that property pays barely more than that new brew pub that you have put down there, which, by the way, is following all your regulations. It went through all the processes they're supposed to be.
Yes, it did. You're
So
correct.
how you have a property that has no less than 30 individual structures on it is paying only $4,000 a year more in taxes, and that single building brew pub down there, which, by the way, only has one of the licenses that he has 6 additional ones.
Well, like I say, this is complicated because it also involves agricultural operations that were pre-existing. So we need to take our time to look into the information that you've provided to us. I would just suggest that you periodically contact Mr. Gottschall, and he will certainly keep you apprised of our progress. I know he's already talked with Mrs. Zerby and our planning folks, and the effort at looking into this is already underway.
And Mr. Bickle, you asked in here, do your voices matter? That was a very important question, and they do. You have a lot of new members here. You have a new manager. This is all new. I mean, I'm aware of the facility, and I'm aware it's been growing generally. This is all new. There are multiple jurisdictions. There are multiple legal questions. So I know for you, this has been going on for a long time. I don't want you to think that when we mention laws and legal and lawyer, that's a way to throw smoke up. But this is, for me, it is not a 5-year project. For me, this is all relatively new.
I totally understand that. And Mr. Judd, you've known me from before. I'm a pretty thorough guy. I spent about 3.5 to 4 weeks researching this. Mm-hmm. I went and I talked to everyone. I talked to Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board. I talked to zoning ordinances. I talked to Chief Counsel. I talked to Pennsylvania State Police. I also talked to the Bureau of Licensing over at the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, who is very adamant that brewery and brew pubs are considered a commercial activity by their own rules and regulations. And there's several distinct issues that they have along the lines with the brew pub license, such as you're not supposed to have a brew pub within 500 feet of any private property along that lines, that you can hear any noise going outside. You can easily, I invite any of the supervisors to come up to my house, which is over 1,000 feet away from where the brew pub is, on a Friday or Saturday night, and you can hear that operations. Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board laws specifically state in the code that there's supposed to be 0 decibels of noise at the property line leaving that property. Routinely, it's being violated. It's now completely surrounded by residential properties, even on the other side now. And the complaints are only going to get worse. How in the heck you could not have, literally last Friday, he had at least 700 people outside partying, having fun, and having a great time. I totally get that. If I didn't have to live by it, I'd want to go too. The problem is I have to live next to it.
I just had a question for Mr. Stein. Oh, I didn't know he was talking. I'm sorry. Are you finished? I'm sorry. When our local churches have food trucks, they have to get permits. Are there permits for that, to have the food trucks out there?
I don't know. I don't know if there is under the zoning ordinance or not.
Do you know that, Brad? Okay. Because I was contacted by a local church, and they contacted here, and they had to have, because they were having a festival, they had to have a permit. So I'm just wondering if he's gotten permits for the food trucks, if they are, if they need to have them.
But there's a whole list of things we're going to have to look into.
Right.
Yeah,
Well,
there-
you've
there-
done the homework ahead of time for our
There is
zoning, really.
there is only
There's a lot of moving parts here.
Yeah.
Mr. Bickle is
Yeah.
military. He's
Yeah.
there is only, to the best of my knowledge, there is one variance and one permit that was actually requested by the property owner, and I don't want to say his name because I'm not trying to pull names into
Fine.
this.
That is fine.
But that temporary building permit for that pop tent was expired. It was only supposed to be for 6 months. It's still there. I have a picture of it in that handout that I handed you, which is right where it was. And the only other variance was for a special events, which the zoning board was reluctant that they couldn't push the board at the time to have a limit on the number of special events that you could have it at. Because if you go to that website, and I encourage everyone on the board to go to the website, you will see every day is a special event. As a matter of fact, some days there's 4 special events going on there with wine slushies you can buy on Thursdays. Hey, happy hour is from 5 to 9:30 on Thursdays, and they have a special for custard, wine, ice cream on Sundays, because that is definitely an agricultural product.
You're sounding more like a commercial right now than anything
It's really ludicrous.
Well, first of all, thank you for providing this in writing as well. That's most helpful. But yes, we have a number of staff folks engaged in looking into this, and Mr. Gottschall will be more than happy to keep you informed as we go along. And as always, feel free to come back here.
Thank you.
We're here every first 3 Tuesdays of every month.
I try to keep my head down and be a normal citizen and not bring miscellaneous attention that I could take care of. But this is something I can't do. This is only something you can.
Well, the purpose of these meetings and the purpose of public comment is for citizens to bring information to our attention. That's why we do this.
Thank you.
So thank you, sir. Would anybody else like to address the board on an item not on the agenda this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move to chairman and board member comments. The chairman has no comments. Board members, comments? Mrs. Lindsay?
Yeah, last week, Mr. Zumas and myself attended the Greater Area Harrisburg Realtors seminar. We represented the board, and also we represented the board at the voting machines on Tuesday night. And thank you to Mr. Chrisman for filling in for me last night at the Council of Government meeting.
You're welcome. Would you like a report?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, especially what they had.
I attended on behalf of the township last evening the Council of Government meeting on the West Shore. It was very, very enlightening. Our presentation last night dealt with human trafficking in our area. Most of us dismiss this as something that doesn't happen here in central Pennsylvania. However, the statistics and the reporting that is being done is indicating that that is mushrooming in our community. And some of the reasons that it is because, first of all, Harrisburg is located very closely to New York, Philadelphia, Baltimore, Washington. So that becomes number one. Number two is because this is a very large trucking transition piece, especially in the Carlisle area. That becomes very important in human trafficking. The other piece that's accompanied that is all of the cargoes, the transfer of cargo. That also becomes very important in human trafficking because it's a place where humans who are being trafficked can be boxed and housed. They can then be transported very quickly. They could be in Harrisburg today, and they could be as far as Midwest or even on the West Coast within 48 hours. And so not only human trafficking for sex, but for labor. And they even zeroed in on areas that we wouldn't normally think of, areas such as nail salons, beauty parlors. They talk about even restaurants. They begin to talk about homes that are built for maybe 4 people, 5 people, homes that are housing 18 or 20 People are coming in and, of course, using these as trafficking of humans. And the operation, or last night's presentation, was made by a young lady by the name of Jordan Pine, who is the executive director for Greenlight Operations. We were fortunate last night also that we had one of our representatives from our police department who had an opportunity to hear that. And it's an excellent program. It makes us all much more aware of this human trafficking that we don't think of as being particularly prevalent here in central Pennsylvania, and specifically Harrisburg area, and it is growing very rapidly. The conversation also, we immediately all think of young females, and the woman told us that it is about 95% right now of women. However, the trafficking of young males is growing extremely fast. And then she went into great detail about what happens when they are moved into that sexual trafficking. And I'm not going to go into all that detail. But the fact is that the males is growing rapidly. But the whole issue is growing rapidly in PA. So at any rate, it's an excellent program just for exposure. It has to also talking about training, because and only 1% of all that are captured in the network of human trafficking, only 1% ever escape, because when they're trapped into this at age, let's see, as early as 12, 13, by the time they're 20, that's their way of life. They don't even know how to get out because they're so entwined, and that is their life. And so it was the presentation was most enlightening, and I think it helps all of us become much more aware. Also, in-service training programs are beginning to be developed and share with law enforcement, because when law enforcement does become involved, they're not trained as counselors to deal with these situations. And so that's another segment of this whole operation. So very worthwhile. And I hope you get a good report from our representative.
Yeah, Director, thanks to Corporal Lupi for going. I appreciate it. Yeah.
Gary, thank you for reporting on that. You're correct. It's not an issue we normally think about a lot
Exactly.
in our area. And if it's a growing problem, we need to be aware of it. So, any other board member comments? Seeing none, do we have a manager's report this evening?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I don't know how I can follow that up, but please allow me to entertain you in a different way, if I may. So just quickly, as a follow-up to last week's workshop meeting, Director Koshiba had provided some additional information to me on plans to address the police radio system. Thank you, Director. The Director and I remain firm in our recommendation at this point to purchase the radio system through this year's bond issuance because of the following reasons. Number one, the lease option would cost the township approximately $111,000 in interest over a 7-year period term at approximately a 5.2% interest rate, whereas purchasing utilizing bond proceeds would net approximately $58,000 in interest, if you will, assuming an interest rate of approximately 2%, which was the figure that was provided to us by Jay Wenger, our financial advisor, through the last bond proposal. So in addition to that, leasing the system would add approximately $86,000 to the annual police budget, the departmental budget. If the board is so inclined, the director, if given the authorization tonight, may begin working with the finance department to secure the paperwork needed to bring forward a purchasing contract, if that is the board's desire.
Okay.
So if I may, the next item, only one other item I have, the 2019-2020 local share grant program is rapidly approaching here. All applications must be postmarked or delivered to the county no later than September 3rd, with an anticipated award date of March 1st of 2020. Consistent with grant guidelines in years past, non-municipal entities are eligible for application only if their projects are sponsored by the home municipality, in our case, obviously Lower Paxton. I had been in conversation with Lingelstown, at least Lingelstown Fire Company, about this. Hadn't gotten back to them yet on the particular details of what I'm about to share, but those non-municipal organizations that are interested in submitting an application out of Lower Paxton should be prepared to have their projects and corresponding grant applications to us here at the township by August 2nd. Consistent with past practice, we will present to the Board of Supervisors during one established workshop meeting. That seems to work best, where we have all organizations come to one meeting to present, which at this point we are thinking should be August 13th. That is the workshop in August. The board then will rank all participating projects and provide letters of support to the organization shortly after the August 20th board business meeting. So again, to those organizations, non-municipal organizations that are going to be seeking local share gaming funds, we would appreciate having any of your documentation to us by August 2nd, and then we will place onto the agenda for August 13th those presentations, if the
Okay.
board may allow.
Very good.
That is all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And with that, we will move to old business. Old business item A. We need to take action on a master service agreement with Civic Plus for the design and implementation of a township website and a mass notification platform. And Leanne Urban had presented this to us at workshop last week. Mr. Gottschall, do you have anything to add?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I have to add is that Mr. Stein had taken a look at this master agreement. It checks out by him, and at this point, it is in front of the board for approval.
Okay.
I guess, may I make a comment?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just to read into the record for the public, the cost, make sure that the costs are clear. We were taking notes during the workshop session, and I just want to make sure what we're voting on tonight, it looks like there's two parts, a notification part and the website and everything that goes with it. So notification is a one-time cost of $1,100 and recurring $10,843. And the website looks like a one-time cost of $31,887 and a recurring cost of $6,308. Am I correct?
Yes, I believe.
Only because
Yes.
I was hastily
Yes.
writing numbers at the workshop session, and now I want to make sure I'm reading the contract correct.
That is correct.
And just make sure that people know, because we are excited about this. I won't go into it again, but this is an exciting possibility. The website's one thing, a notification would be for, it could be for emergency-related things, public safety-related things, but can also be for community events, could also be for board meetings, anything that people want to sign up for. Road closures, sewer line replacement. This is very exciting, and I'm looking forward to voting for it.
Yes, that and the redesign of the website to really bring the website up to current standards. All something that need to be done. I would concur. I'm particularly excited about the mass notification system. I think in terms of being able to communicate directly with the public, especially in case of emergencies or public safety issues, is very important. And pretty much most people have one of these things nowadays, so it's a lot easier to communicate. With that, is there a motion on the issue?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the master service agreement with Civic Plus for the design and implementation of a township website and mass notification platform as presented and recommended by Mr. Gottschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional board comments or questions? Any public comment or questions? Yes, sir.
Have you thought of tying into the PA alert system that's already existing, which does the
I believe those are mainly for public safety, emergency notification. Well, the short answer is, yeah, we looked into everything that was out there. I can't give you a detailed answer, but
The P alert system even does office closings for the state. It's very similar to those, even down in locality, they do weather alerts for along that line. There's all different types of notifications that goes with the P alert. So I was just asking since they didn't, that was there since it's our.
right, yeah, I don't want to speak for our communications manager, but I'm almost definite that we would have looked into that, and I don't think it does nearly what this does.
We don't have the ability to control that system. This system that we are about to take action on, we would have total control over it. So our public safety department can put out alerts. We can, as Mr. Judd said, if there's a sewer line replacement project going on, we can micro-target and notify the residents of the neighborhood that there's a sewer line, which you couldn't do with that system. So it does give us much, much greater flexibility. Okay, with that, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Very good. We'll now move on to items B, C, and D are related, and I see Director Koshiba is here. We need to take action on contracts for 3 pieces of fire apparatus, and Mr. Koshiba will give us details.
Mr.
Director?
Chairman, member of the board, and Mr. Gutschall, before I move forward on this, in response to the topic you brought up earlier from the Council of Governments, just rest easy knowing that the police department here, in cooperation with many other state and local agencies, have conducted at least 2 human trafficking details, and we have 2 more planned in the immediate future. I won't disclose any details. So through Corporal Lupi, who's on the FBI task force, and many of our state and local partners, we're actively pursuing that throughout the year. So,
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so moving on with the apparatus that's on the agenda here. The first piece of apparatus that I want to talk about, and is up on the screen for everyone to see, is the replacement of the Colonial Park ladder truck. This particular, first and foremost, all 3 fire companies have done an outstanding job in working with me and among themselves to several hours, many hours, in trying to refine these specifications for these and get us to a point where we're ready to bring this forward to you. So the first one on the list was the Colonial Park replacement of their ladder truck, which is a Seagrave tower that we're proposing. On that particular truck, after the savings that are going to be seen in the way of 50% down payments and a group purchase between the Paxtonia rescue engine and the Colonial Tower, that piece of apparatus is $1,486,152 is the price of that particular tower ladder from Seagrave. To give you an idea of the savings, I proposed with a 50% down. The group savings by ordering 2 Seagrave pieces of fire apparatus for the Colonial Park and Paxtonia fire companies brought $15,000 in group savings. The 50% down option that we're hoping to enforce or to put forward would be $13,559 in savings for the Colonial Park tower ladder, and an additional $6,057 in savings for the Paxtonia engine. So overall, those bring forward a pretty significant savings, in my opinion. Moving on to the Paxtonia rescue engine, that will replace their existing rescue engine. And what I mean by rescue engine, in this particular case, it will carry water hose and vehicle extrication and various rescue equipment capable of doing a host of rescue operations, to include vehicle rescue operations throughout the township. That particular piece of apparatus, after the 50% down savings and the discounts, was $783,556. Moving on to the Linglestown ladder tower. That's the replacement of their current tower. It's a very similar piece of apparatus, very different from the tower ladder that Colonial Park is purchasing, this particular piece of equipment for Lingelstown has the ability to routinely climb the ladder and also operate in the tower basket, why it is referred to as a ladder tower. It also has a tank on it, which trucks traditionally don't have, and a pump capable of carrying hose and water. That makes it what's called a quint, so it has the ability to function not only as a ladder truck, but also in carrying a host of ventilation, ground ladders, and other assorted truck equipment. It also has the ability to pump water and serve that function as well. After the savings of that particular unit, that price comes in at $1,388,475. So the total of all 3 units that would eventually be delivered in, if the order is placed, these contracts are signed and the order is placed, would be delivered at some point next year, would be $3,658,183.
Okay. Board members, any comments of the director, or any questions for the director? No, I think we have discussed this very thoroughly, and I will note the presence of a number of our volunteer firefighters at the meeting tonight. Thank you for being here and for all that you do for us. We're very much appreciative of that. And with that, do we have any public comment on? You need to come to the podium, please. Yeah.
I apologize. For the state, I actually work for the Office of Administration, and I dealt with the overseeing of the PEMA fire truck systems and the loan system along that line. So the amount of system you're doing and you're talking about from a 50% down perspective, my question was from a cash perspective, has it been, the PEMA loan system cannot fund that much money. You cannot get that much money from the loan system. But what you can do is you can get a partial amount of that loan from the PEMA loan system along that lines, which is a very low interest rate. So instead of doing the entire cash down, which is what you're talking about, which is only a savings of approximately $40,000 on $3 million, you can spread out the payment. So I didn't know how long the 50% upfront was now until the delivery of the vehicles. Typically, they take a while to make, from my understanding. So is there actual savings of doing the down upfront, or actually a greater savings to actually finance that amount and hold it out versus the amount of money you, because you'd have to take, no one has $3 million just sitting around in a capital fund for this typically along that lines.
I can answer that. Thank you, sir. So the funding that he's talking about through, at least through the Pennsylvania grant system, if that's what you're referring to, sir, is a 2% down loan. That loan is maxed out at, I believe, $200,000 for a piece of equipment built in Pennsylvania. And for anything built outside of Pennsylvania, I want to say it's been a while, but I think $100,000. So yes, that was explored at that 2% rate. It could be combined with other loans. I don't want to step outside of my boundaries here with the township, but I know that the bond rate that the township has looked into is very close to that 2%. So yes, the 50% down money is in that figure that you spoke about. Doesn't seem like a whole lot of money when you're talking about over $3 million worth of equipment. However, with the money currently available to us from the capital fund and also the general fund, we'll be able to, I don't want to speak out of turn, but basically float the bond until we secure the bond in October, was my understanding.
Yes.
And then we'd be over 20 years in our bond payment. So all that would be structured out. I think we're probably pretty well financed if not going with the 2% from the state.
Yes, that financing plan, as you have outlined it, is moving forward. We'll be taking the next steps either in mid-July or very early August at the latest to get that moving. Okay. But the financing plan is in place.
Did I answer your question, sir?
Oh, yeah, I apologize. I just happened to have that.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Director, the 3 apparatuses that we're replacing, are we going to have a hard time selling them?
No, there's, interestingly enough, there's already interest in at least one of those pieces of apparatus. And when we were going through the process of selling Colonial Park's rescue engine a few months back, an individual that did not buy that particular piece of apparatus indicated he would be interested when the ladder truck was available. So I believe, based on the type of apparatus we'll be looking to sell, when that time comes, they should move rather quickly.
And how far down the road is it till we replace the last 3 pieces?
I don't have that particular
Okay.
aspect of the plan in front of me, so I don't want to mislead you, but I want to say it's at least 7 years out.
Okay.
It kind of rings a bell to
We
me.
have time to recoup a little bit.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good, thank you.
Any other board questions, comments, public questions, comments? Okay, with that, is there a motion on old business, item B, the action on the contract with Seagraves Fire Apparatus for the Seagrave Marauder 95? Gary, I'm sure you'll put all the details in the motion, so I won't repeat it.
Yes, and yes, we do need to do each one of these separately, Mr.
One
Chairman.
individually,
Only
yes.
because of the equipment and the amount of money. Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the contract with Seagrove Fire Apparatus LLC for the manufacture and the sale of a Seagrove TV OHCT Marauder 95 aerial scope non-quint platform for the Colonial Park Fire Company as outlined in the contract and recommended by Mr. Kashiba.
In the amount of, do we have the amount?
I think that one's $1,499,711.
Okay. So moved. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Item C. A motion is in order.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the contract with Seagrove Fire Apparatus LLC for the manufacture and sale of Seagrove TB50CT Marauder pumper for the Paxtonia Fire Company as presented and recommended by Mr. Kashiba. And I think this one is $789,613.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And item D.
Yes, I just need the amount. Is that
1,382,000?
1.3?
1,388,475.
Yeah, one- Yeah.
There it is. Okay. Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the agreement of sale for the fire apparatus for the manufacture and sale of, no, I'm sorry. It's the contract for Seagrove Fire Apparatus LLC for the manufacture and sale of a Seagrove TB50C.
No.
We did it. It's D.
Item D, Gary.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't cross off C.
1, 2.
It's the
We want 2 of that one. We want,
It's the agreement for the of sale for the fire apparatus for manufacture and sale of the KME Custom Service Severe Service Mid-Mount 102 platform for the Linglestown Fire Company in the amount of $1,382,879. Finally.
thank you. Is there a second?
I apologize for getting
That's
through that
okay.
one.
We just want to get it right. So
I'll
we get the
second it.
right trucks here at the end.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Sorry.
Well, congratulations, Director. We're the proud owners of 3 new fire apparatus. So, well, thanks to everybody who, I think that the public probably does not understand the amount of research and effort that it takes to get to the point of knowing what to buy and what it needs and going out and finding the lowest bidder and all those sorts of things. You've put, well, I'd say months, probably years worth of effort into this. So thank you to everybody involved, and we'll look forward to seeing some shiny new fire trucks here next year.
Now we got to repair one.
We have to what?
Repair one.
We have to repair one. Well, yes. Things do need to be repaired. That does bring us to new business. Item A, an action on invoice number 1257708 for basket repairs to the 2000 KME Linglestown ladder truck. Mr. Godshall.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, per Resolution 9-11, extraordinary unanticipated apparatus repair cost may, upon approval of the Board of Supervisors and through a recommendation of the Public Safety Committee, be funded through the Fire Equipment Capital Plan and the funding associated with said plan. So in front of the board this evening and through the recommendation of the Public Safety Committee is an invoice in the amount of $4,901.69 for welding and associated repair to Linglestown Fire Company's 2000 KME ladder truck. Once approved, the invoice will be paid through the Fire Equipment Capital Fund. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions? Any public comment? Is there a motion?
With the fact that we're getting a reimbursement, I'll be happy to do this, Mr. Chairman. I'll move we approve invoice number 1257708 for the basket repair to the 2000 KME Linglestown ladder truck in the amount of $4,901.69 as presented and recommended by Mr. Gutschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. Item B under new business, we have resolution number 2019-11. We're going to declare an intent to reimburse the general fund through Penvest loan proceeds for sanitary sewer replacements. Again, Mr. Gottschall.
Yes, members of the board, thank you. Much like action taken by the board a couple of weeks ago, authorizing the reimbursement of township expenditures through bond proceeds, Resolution 19-11 officially declares intent to reimburse the general fund for expenditures made in relation to the sanitary sewer replacement projects through the Penvest loan proceeds once we have received them.
Okay. Any questions of Mr. Gottschall?
That's pretty straightforward, too.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve Resolution 2019-11 with declaring our intent to reimburse the general fund through Penvest loan proceeds for the sanitary sewer replacement is again presented and recommended by Mr. Gutschall.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any public comment? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, we now have a series of resolutions relating to the submission of applications for traffic signal approval to PennDOT. Mr. Gottschall, we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? 5, yeah, 5 traffic signals.
Yeah,
Anything more to add to that other than that this is submission to PennDOT for approval, correct?
yes, sir. Yes. So just by way of a little bit of background on these resolutions, so as part of the Dauphin County Infrastructure Bank Project, HRG is developing the highway occupancy permit design and submission for the Susquehanna Union Green Development out in Susquehanna Township. The project will require modifications to the traffic signal timing within Lower Paxton, along the Linglestown corridor heading into Susquehanna Township. So HRG, along with any other work that is required to modify the signals, will be performed in conjunction with the development and will be paid for by the developers of that development out in Susquehanna. Lower Paxton, as the owner of the traffic signals, is merely required to be the applicant on these modification requests.
Okay. Can we take all these in one motion?
I would like to, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Yeah, I would think so.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve resolutions 2019-12, 2019-13, 2019-14, 2019-15, and 29-16, which include the authorized submission of the application for traffic signal approval to PennDOT for the intersections of Linglestown Road and Patton Road, Linglestown Road and Colonial Road, Linglestown Road and Forest Hills / Redneck Drive.
Ringneck.
Ringneck, excuse me. Linglestown Road. This is a lot of reading tonight, Mr. Chairman. Linglestown Road and Dover Road.
A lot of rednecks around.
I'm not finished. I'm only on F. The intersections of Linglestown Road and Dover Road / Versailles Drive, and that one Versailles I know because I've been there. And traffic signal for the intersection of Linglestown Road and Crumbs Mill Road, and I think that's all inclusive, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any additional board questions or comments? Any public questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that will take us then to item H, which would be improvement guarantees, of which there
Yep,
are
just-
4 actions required. Is there a motion on the improvement guarantees?
Just a question before the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Mr. Gutschall, is there anything that, I did not see anything exceptional. Is there anything from staff that's exceptional that we should pay particular attention to? Other than that, they look rather straightforward to me.
Yes, sir, straightforward.
Then with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll move we approve the 4 improvement guarantees with 2 releases and extension. Oh, there are 3 releases and an extension.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Mrs. Lindsay, did you vote aye?
I said aye.
Okay, sorry, I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Okay, no problem. That takes us to payment of bills, and we have a number of bills to be paid for Lower Paxton Township and Lower Paxton Township Authority, and Madam Treasurer will detail those for us.
Yes, I make a motion that we pay the bills for Lower Paxton Township check register. We can also pay the P-card check register February 2019, March 2019, the P-card remittance for February 2019 and March 2019, except for excluding Mid-Atlantic, it's $150, PNCT 02/2019, that is being disputed on one of the P-cards. I also make a motion that we approve the bills for Lower Paxton Township Authority check register, the P-card check register for February 2019 and March 2019, and the P-card remittance for February 2019 and March 2019.
Thank you. Is there a second to Mrs. Lindsay's motion?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor signify.
I have a
Excuse me,
question.
you have a
What's being disputed and why? It's the first
So,
I've heard this.
Okay, so I had a question, and it's Mid-Atlantic, and it's in February. It's $150 that was one of our officers, it was on his credit card, and he did not make that purchase. So we are disputing it. It's
So
in
we're asking
dispute.
for clarification on the, oh, okay.
It was on the credit card. He was not there at the time, and so they're disputing the charge on the credit card. So I don't want it to be included because I don't want it to be paid.
Okay, I thank you for the explanation, because when there was a dispute with no explanation or understanding,
Yeah.
I wanted to know why.
I had called it and I asked, and.
Well,
there
and that's
was a-
fine, but I didn't know, and I thought the board needed to know, that's why I raised okay, thank
No
you.
problem, yeah.
No, I think it was good, but thanks for the explanation.
Thank you for your thoroughness in catching that. So we have a motion and a second. So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And with that, does any member of the board or the township manager have any announcements? Brad, you look like there might be something additional.
No, sir.
No?
Sorry.
Nothing additional. Our next board meeting will be a business meeting on Tuesday, July 2nd, 2019 at 7:00 p.m. right here. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Moved and is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded, and all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.